Hello, my name is Jesus Silva. I'm an editor member of the ACE International Relations Committee. Welcome to the Global Editing Perspective, a podcast from the International Relations Committee of the American Cinema Editors. In this episode, we're highlighting Venezuelan editors. Joining us today, editors from diverse backgrounds and careers, each bringing a distinct voice, experience, and perspective shaped by their Venezuelan roots.
My name is Miguel Ferrer. I am a writer, director, and editor. Started my career as an editor, actually. So I'm super happy to be here. I was born in Venezuela and now I live in LA.
Yes, my name is Luis Colina. I'm also well, from Venezuela, so we don't need to say that. I've been here since 1980. I've been editing for over 40 years. And between editing and acting, that's how I've been making a living. Also live in LA.
I yeah, I'm come from a family, involved in the cine and television industry. Well, industry in Venezuela. Basically, my dad has a production company, and my uncle he founded the Cinemateriales. It's kind of like the company for rent and sells cinematography supplies and television supplies, like cameras, lights, and everything. So I started to working in a television in Caracas during my university. I studied mass communication, so at the same time I started working as an editor for a television there. So yeah, from the 1996. So it's like yeah, almost 30 years working as an editor. Yeah.
My name is Luis Carlos Hueck. I think I'm the only one who is in Venezuela right now. I used to live in LA, and right now I'm working as a writer, director, and editor of films and series, TV shows and series. I hope to go back to LA someday.
Hi, José Pulido, editor for around 30 years. I came to LA originally at the beginning of the century to go to a master's program at AFI, at American Film Institute. And that's where it all started for me. I got contacts there, and I started working on documentaries, in reality TV, in some fiction, but mostly documentaries. And I have been here since, I would say, 2007 was the time in which I mean, for a while I went back to Venezuela, did things in Venezuela here, and some commercials in Latin America. But then I I call LA home since 2007.
Great. Well, thank you guys. Thank you for your time and for being here sharing this conversation. Miguel, I would like to turn to you since we'd like to talk about your film and your experience working you as a director and editor. Shadow of the Sun, La Sombra del Sol, representing Venezuela for the '96 edition of the Oscars. So we would like to talk about a little bit about that experience and getting your film there as a director editor.
Well, it was it was a bit of a dream come true. I moved to the States in '96, before pretty much before everything happened to our country, to Venezuela. And I think that's because my mom's Cuban, and she saw it coming. And so I moved to the States, but I always loved cinema. I loved cinema growing up. When I came out to LA, my first job was as a cameraman for Nat Geo, but my second job was as a post coordinator for Warner Brothers. So that gave me a clear understanding of how the post production process in the studio system worked. And then not only that, because I was the one receiving the first script, and I was also the one delivering the tape to the studio, I knew how to handle, how to manage editors, give them what they need creatively, sound, music, color, all the while doing little projects, little music videos, and editing, directing, editing, directing, editing. Um, And then, pretty much that whole experience gave me an opportunity to embark on the journey with Shadow and Sun. It was a small project. It was a something that I said I need to do a narrative film to prove what I could do, but I don't have a lot of money because I didn't have like investors. The investors dropped, and I said, "What can I do that's myself that I can put my own money into?" And we went down to Venezuela. I went down to Venezuela, and we shot it in 18 days in Acarigua. And then part of the reason why I was able to shoot it that way, people say, "Oh, 18 days, that was fast, 63 locations, the whole thing." It's because of all the post-production and all the editing background that I've had that I knew I shot the movie. So I was the camera op. So I shot the movie exactly how I knew that I was going to cut. And when it was time for the editing, therein came the process, the difficulty, right? Because as Luis Carlos knows, you're a director, and as you guys know as editors, it's very dangerous to let a director edit his own film because you become enamored with your shots, with things that don't necessarily move the plot forward, or that maybe is a little bit of fat and you need to trim, and directors become enamored by it. So I had to literally put that hat away and then put in, basically play pretend that I'm an editor that didn't shoot the movie, that was not there during production, during pre-production, and is looking at the movie and going, what is the best version of this, and why is are things not working? Also, my producers came in and gave me a lot of great notes, and I think that the job there was, let go of the ego, let go of the things that I loved, and listen to your partners to be able to cut it correctly. And just to make a long story short, the first cut that I showed my producers were 2 hours and 5 minutes. And then I cut it down to 157. And I told them if we cut one more frame, the movie's ruined. It was like, the movie's ruined if I cut one more frame. Don't ask me anymore. And the short end of it is that the movie ended up being an hour and 40. So I cut down 24 minutes thanks to the help of great collaborators, and also being able to having the 2 3 weeks to step away from it and do the notes, and recognize that, yeah, maybe I shot a little bit too much, and the best version of the story is a little bit shorter.
Wow, wow, what a journey to get the film to represent Venezuela in the Oscars. So, that must have been a great experience. And
It's a great movie, I have to tell.
Thank you.
yes, doing a segue to that, Luis Carlos, your film is also representing Venezuela for the Oscars on the 97 edition, Back to Life, Vuelve a la Vida. And you work with, along with your brother, Alfredo. He was the editor of the film. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, my brother, he has always been like such a good editor, and for this movie, we wanted to edit ourselves. So, and Alfredo, he did like the first cut, and we saw it, and then everything that I didn't like, I told him, and he was always like open to ideas and how to improve, and it was like very easy to work with him and work together, um, because for example, I told him this is scene I think is not moving forward the movie or whatever, and we have like a very similar vision of what we wanted, so it was very easy to work with him, and we had this great movie. I don't know if you have seen it. Like I can send it.
Please send it. We'll love to see it.
Please,
Yeah.
I want to see it.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. And
So it was very easy. It was very easy. We did I think we did great work working together. We saw all the movies, and we were like together in the whole process of post production, in the music, in the sound design. in color correction. We were always together, talking about how to get better the movie, how to make the movie better.
And how's the process of working with your brother and he editing a movie? Because he's your brother at the end of the day. So does that make it better or what's your
Well, we work with a lot of respect, so we are like professional, and he's also the director and the writer. So when we were working here in Venezuela, shooting the movie, if I wanted like a shot, like a different shot, we were planned. He was like, "Okay, let's do it," or he wanted another shot. I said, "Okay, let's do the shot that you want," and then in editing room, we're gonna see what are we gonna use. But it was never like a compete, like we were not competing. It was always like a good team. Like I hope to do more movies that way.
That's great. It's great to hear that. So I would love to segue back to Luis Colina, since among all of us, you're actually inspirations for all of us. You had a great career, ton of
Yes.
experience.
Did you say hat?
Definitely inspirations for all of us following your path for sure. Can you take a little bit about that? Your career. How do you see the role of editor since you started until till now? Has changed? How do you see that change?
Okay, this is an example of what happens when you edit your own movie. You make it very long. I actually like Otto. I just put together the fact that your family remember that company that we used to rent equipment in Venezuela until now. Can you believe it? I go, that last name looks familiar until now, after many years that we know each other. So how do I start? I started with music, as a matter of fact, in Venezuela. I was a DJ, and it became kind of like a big thing. I mean, totally unplanned. Became kind of like the DJ for the videos and the Círculo Militar and big parties, whatever. And that transition to radio. I used to work with Radio Capital con Placio Garrido, musicalizing for him. I don't know, you guys probably don't know these names, but that Placio Garrido was like a Ivan Losher. They were big DJs back in the day.
Ivan Losher, yes.
Yeah. So that, when I was doing that in Venezuela, and I became friends with Raúl Gomez, which was the nephew of Renio Tolina, and those guys basically hired me to put music in their documentaries. At that time, everybody was doing, music library, classical thing, and really boring needle drops. And I just went crazy. I mean, nobody gave me any instructions. They just said, here's a documentary about Salvador Garmendia, the writer, and let's just put some music in there, La Casa de la Muñeca. And I remember putting like needle drops from Pink Floyd and like Supertramp and all this stuff, kind of treating it. And since nobody was really supervising the music back then, and as we all know, the background in Venezuela, there is no private filmmaking down there. It's all through government, grants. So, and there was ADE and COPEI. So if you were working during ADE and then COPEI won, you were out of a job because they thought you were ADECO. And so they say, well, you're not gonna get a work here. So they gave me a scholarship to study sound engineering. And that kind of like, there was no such school here in the United States. There was one in Miami, AA here in San Francisco, another AA, and that's how I stumbled into San Francisco. So I got an AA, and I still got a scholarship. Ended up going to broadcast and TV at San Francisco State, and I still got a scholarship left because I was a civil engineer in Venezuela from La Católica. But that was because of my father and my grandfather. That's what they did. And I hated it. I just like, this is not for me. So I gave my dad, here's the degree, hang it, and I'm out. So I end up finally at San Francisco Art Institute doing a master in fine arts. And while I was there, always hoping, planning on coming back to Venezuela and make movies. And while I was there, because I had that mixing experience, I was mixing student films. My supervisor comes over and says, look, I got a call from this place and I think you should interview. And I go, no, dude, we're going back to Venezuela. Thank you very much. No, I think you should go. So I go to this interview and they hire me right in the spot. Like it was something like $12 an hour, which back then was like a fortune for me, you know. And the movie was Amadeus.
Wow.
So I am working as the boss boy in Amadeus with something like there were 5 editors. Milos Forman was working closely with an editor, and I met Milos Forman. And I'm like, just like a cucaracha en baile gallina. I don't know how to translate that in English. It's like totally like trying to catch my breath here, you know, swimming on a butter bowl. And but this guy Milos was Czechoslovakian. He go, Louis, come here. You gotta stay in America. This is good for you. And the guy will bring me into the editing room and show me scenes and ask my opinion. Now, this is a guy who's very intimidated, tall, polished, you know, Czech guy with a big, thick boy, cigar in hand. So nobody would like tell him what they thought, but I didn't know any better, and I would. So he loved me. I mean, took me under his wing, and I started with him seeing the. We're talking about a 6-hour rough cut Amadeus, man. That was like a 30 reels back in the day in film. Everybody was cutting on flatbeds. And I started to see the effect of editing in movies every time I would see a version of it. And that's how I fell in love with editing, the power of editing in really transforming the piece from where it was, written to where it was shot. And then finally, we are now the last stage that you can really make or break a movie. And that was fascinating for me. And I fell in love with it. And I started working for, that company, Soul Sam, went on to make very good films. I mean, they did Unbearable Lightness of Being, Mosquito Coast, and the Bay Area was a golden place because great filmmakers were up there. Francis Ford Coppola, George Lucas, Dave Peoples. Dave Peoples was my mentor, who's a documentary editor, who was also a writer. And he turned out to be the writer for Blade Runner. So he's the original writer of Blade Runner. He also wrote Unforgiven, which was sold to, Clint Eastwood and sat on it until he came old enough to make it. Once in the Bay Area, you didn't have that many opportunities to become an editor. So I already was assisting Walter Murch and all this, Dwayne Dunn, all these people that they told me if you want to edit, you have to move to LA. So in 19 after right after Godfather 3, which was I was the assistant editor and supervisor, Walter told me you got to move to LA, and so I came and moved to LA in 91.
Oh, wow, fascinating. Thank you for sharing that, Luis. Definitely we'll come back to more stories about that because it's fascinating. I would love to give the chance to Otto to come in and talk a little bit about his experience as a Venezuelan here in LA now, but also as an editor working in Venezuela, then working here in the States. And how's that shape your identity as an editor or the way you tell stories? If you want to share a little bit about that.
Well, it's interesting because I think maybe, coming from Venezuela, we don't have the, like a really developed industry. So basically, is still going like the people who do films maybe have to wear a lot of hats in to take care of in many departments. So when I start to working on the as an editor in a TV network, my goal or my dream is to become a director and working for films and working for advertising. I started in a music network. It's called Bravo Canal 57. The owner was José Luis Rodríguez El Puma. Was the president of that network, and that network behaved like a radio station because basically it's a music channel, and the editors there, we prepare a lot of uh, short format episode of I don't know, like a little report of the artist, whatever. It's that kind of like a super pop ligated to the music industry. So that helps me to, for me to pay my university and finish it, and it was a really cool ambience. So after that, I jumped to the to the CTG, the Cisneros Television Group. At that moment, they were it's like a media company in Venezuela. They own different signals in Latin America. At that time, they acquired education signal from Mexico. They call Canal Clase, and they want to relaunch that network. With a new image, new logos, new everything. No? At the same time, Chavez became president, and the Cisneros Television Group feels they start to feel in the menace of the Chavismo. So they moved the operation from Caracas to Miami. So that's why I moved to United States. So I've been working I living in Miami by 2 years, and after that, some friend of mine from the La Católica, from the same university, they did a Maquina Studios, is a post house here in LA. Basically, he hired me. It's like, what are you doing in Miami? Because I feel in Miami like a transitional moment. At some point, I was thinking like, well, maybe the work is done here, and I return to Caracas. I don't have any motivation to stay in the United States. But when I moved to LA, I think that I feel like okay, this is maybe the place I want to, because I don't know, that moment, that this is 2004. At that moment, I don't know, whatever place you go into to is something linked to the industry. Like maybe you went to the bar and you meet a sound guy, or maybe a cast director or whatever it is, and always the conversation is really cool. So I think that for me was super nice. So yeah, at that moment in Maquina Studios, I developed more in advertising, working for the Hispanic campaigns. Uh, During that time, I always, the director's dream. I did some short films, and one of those they went to the Latino International Film Festival here in LA, the La LIF, and also knowing the Venezuelan people living in LA, we try to make the networking hub called Venezolanos in Hollywood, basically to networking, so to know each other. And that's why I met Diego Velasco, and he did the movie La Hora Cero. So I started that was my first features as an editor. Was super really cool experience, and I feel like working with friends is like the best gift.
Well, I think that of course he has an impact in terms, I mean, in general terms, but there are very specific things. Like I remember, because I started working, my first job was in Radio Caracas Televisión. I was an assistant producer that because of the needs of the shows, it was actually the shows, there were like report shows on Friday nights on Radio Caracas, and it was like a 1 hour shows, and because there were no resources, I started editing just because they needed someone, and I was an assistant producer that kind of figured out how to edit tape to tape. And just the fact that starting in Venezuela, you never had the resources, you start learning about everything. You start learning how to, make machines work. You become, kind of like a fake engineer, like, oh, he knows how to fix this. So I remember that when I first came here, the first thing that people like of me was, hey, he can solve problems, like technical problems. And my first jobs here were as an assistant editor. I worked for an editor named Arnold Glassman, who was a documentary editor and I did fantastic work. I worked for an editor named Claire Scanlon, who is a fantastic editor and director. I worked for Michael Ruscio, who actually was the person that put us in contact. Michael Ruscio, who has like an amazing list of credits, and that's how I started working here. I did one feature at the beginning of the century that called "Dead in the Water." It was a feature with a Brazilian director Gustavo Lipsin. From there, I got contacts that got me to work on different, documentary series for Discovery Channel at the time, History Channel. At some point, I started to working for MTV on reality TV in 2010, The Hills, like that, those kind of shows. And what usually happens is you just become a problem solver, you become a source of ideas, you become, fixer. Like this is how I see my work. My work is actually fixing whatever problems that the situation has. I originally wanted to be a more on the production side, and at some point I realized, oh no, I mean, this is actually, I felt like production was he needed a person that would be more willing to make concessions to circumstances. And editing it, I feel like you have a little bit more control over everything, or at least you have more tools and more time to fix problems. And I would say to people, hey, look, if you by the way, I don't know if this is actually addressed to Venezuelans that want to be in film editing or television editing or whatever it is that we're doing now, streaming editing. But if your personality is a person that wants to really solve problems, that wants to maximize, with whatever resources you have, the quality of your show, then probably this is the right job to have, the right career to have. And that's pretty much it in terms of how my background affected my decisions, I guess.
I would love to turn to Miguel and then maybe Luis, since we have them. Yes, Luis, please. Yes.
Could we reverse the question to you, because you're also an editor? Tell us about you.
Yeah, I mean, been working for maybe about over 16 years now as an editor. I came to the United States in 97. So I came right out of high school. I went to college here. I went to film. I studied film in Orlando, went to UCF. And then after that, I did a little bit of anthropology in university because I also wanted to come back to Venezuela and make documentaries in Venezuela about our stories, where we come from, who we are, all culture. And I found that fascinating because we're a mix of like so many delicious cultures, because food is also part of our identity. So I was always fascinated with, the amazing Lebanese food, the amazing Italian food that we have back home. Maybe the best Chinese rice is in Venezuela. So that's something that debatable. But then in 2008, I started working in reality shows in Orlando. That was probably 2006, 2007. That was probably the boom of reality TV. That was when VH1 had a bunch of shows. They had the Hogan's Knows Best show with the wrestler Hulk Hogan. They were doing the reality show. They were living in Tampa back in the day. So I had a chance to be part of the post team and working with them and help them assembly. That was like my first experience into post, which to me was fascinating because as a reality editor, it's more than an editor. You're like, making so many decisions, working through so much of an incredible amount of footage. It never ends. So you're making so many decisions. So it's a very intense work. And to me, that was fascinating. I moved to LA around 2008. Great time to move to LA, of course not. But and then I started working in documentaries. I got a chance to work with Lucy Walker. She's a documentary director. She was nominated for an Oscar for Wasteland. It's a documentary about the Brazilian landfills in Brazil. And I got a chance to work with her on her next film, The Crash Reel. And I came in as an assistant editor, working with Pedro Cos, a Brazilian editor, amazing editor. So I started working with them as an assistant, and eventually they bumped me up to associate editor. So I started cutting scenes for them, and they liked my work. And then after that, I keep working on documentaries, and eventually cutting more docs until I jumped on the PBS bandwagon, and I started working with PBS content, cutting documentary series mainly for PBS now. In the past couple of years, I've been doing that. I would love to turn to Miguel and maybe Luis after that, because Luis Hueck, since we have you for a little bit of short time, I don't want to lose you guys. And I want to talk to about Venezuela. What is the situation with Venezuelan cinema, and moving forward, what is that looking like? Miguel, if you want to jump on that.
Look, in my particular case, it was always a dream of mine to go back to Venezuela and shoot movies. I've been living in the States for 30 years. I had that opportunity in 2022. I had gone back to do little music videos here and there. And when I did that, I understood what I was kind of facing. The first music video I did, the logistical problems, the things that you had to do to get something done were something that I had never experienced. I hadn't experienced even in college. Not to say that there was like a lack of talent, because it's all the opposite. It's the talent that's in Venezuela is ridiculous. The hidden talent. It was a lack of like logistical and infrastructure, right? So the first shoot that I did was 22 hours straight, not by choice, of course. It was supposed to be a 12-hour shoot and then turned into a 22-hour shoot. And I was destroyed. I mean, everybody else, El Gocho Duque, the cinematographer, the ACs, Will Romero, all these guys and ladies, and Jennifer Herrera, the costume, they were chilling doing a 22-hour shoot. And I was destroyed. And they said, "Okay, cool. Well, we'll see each other tomorrow." And I was like, I need some rest, guys. So when I had that first experience, I was able to see where the potholes down the road were, um, and I realized, okay, when I wanted to shoot shadow down there, is like if I want to shoot something down there, it's okay. How do I grab everything that I've learned here in the U.S. and then, well, how we say, pasarme el chip, to how things are done in Venezuela in that moment, at least with that particular crew. And how do I get to the middle so that we can have a good shoot? How do I know what the potholes down the road are so that we don't have these kinds of setbacks? Um, the way that I saw it, and when I did those couple of music videos and then I did Shadow, here's the takeaway. The takeaway was there is, I mean, we know this, but I say this now in this space so that everybody else can hear this. There is an insane amount of talent in Venezuela, both in front of the camera and behind the camera, that are completely hidden from view and from the world because of the lack of opportunity, right? There's very few people doing movies, quality stories like Luis and Alfredito, like other filmmakers that are in the country, like Joanna, doing films that can be exported to an international audience, right? So those opportunities are few and far between. So how do we? My idea was, how do I build infrastructure here? How do I build, I guess, capacitar the technicians and the PAs and the students and the young filmmakers to know how things are done in the international market or in the US or in Mexico, because their talent is already there. All they need is one workshop. All they need is one time, like our AD, who had never really done like a call sheet the way that we do it in the US or in the international market. And as soon as I showed it to him, He was like, "This is wow, this is great. This is awesome. I love it." And he was young, and he grabbed it and he ran with it, and we were able to do 18 days, 12-hour days, and shoot this whole movie that fast. El Gocho Duque had never shot a movie in his life before. He's a career gaffer, 35 years gaffing. He had never shot a feature film before. Nobody had given him the opportunity, and also he had never really like found, there's not like there's like 30 movies, or 40 movies shooting a year in Venezuela for him to pick one. And then he shot this. He hadn't really shot with anamorphic lenses, and he shot with anamorphic lenses. And you guys have seen the film, so you know the quality of the cinematography. And like that, I can tell you stories over and over again. So that was my experience. My experience was I was so fortunate to be able to cross paths with these artists in front of the camera, behind the camera. Angelo Lopez, who plays Alex, had never acted in his life before. He is a deaf kid from El Valle, and he had never acted in his life before. Um, Carlos Manuel Gonzalez, theater actor, but he hadn't been in like a protagonist role in a feature, and yet people still see the film even 2 3 days ago, and they tell me, where did this guy come from? Who is this guy? And then I say, well, those are the treasures that are there waiting for the opportunity, waiting for hopefully a better situation, a real government, a democratic government instead of a dictatorship, so that people can go to Venezuela, invest in cinema there, invest in our locations, in our beauty, in our talent, and also export it.
Yeah, definitely. Venezuela it's an amazing place with so many talented people, like you said, behind the camera and in front of the camera. And Luis Carlos, we have you in Caracas, right there, right now on the ground. How's from your perspective of Venezuelan cinema and moving forward? How do you feel about it? What do you see is going on over there?
Well, we have been since 2017, 18, like, and during the pandemic, everything here was very difficult for the cinema industry. But right now, as Miguel said, we have a lot of talent in the crews, in the actors. We have amazing locations, beautiful places. Everything here, as you know, Venezuela is a place where people open the door to collaborate. And I just did a movie in Cabimas, where it's very hot, and everybody is like, "Hey, do you want a glass of water?" People from the houses. It's amazing to work here. I love to work here. I'm already when I did Papita Manito Stone, the collaboration in the stadium was amazing. It's such a good place to do movies, and it's still very cheap. I remember for Papita Manito Stone two, I see with a helicopter, and the helicopter goes like, and everybody here is crazy, so the helicopter goes like one. So I asked the pilot, "Can you do that?" And he's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, I will do it." And it cost me $1,000, and it's so cheap, still cheap. So it's a good place to do movies. I just did like a TV series for a platform here. It's called Las Doñas del Cafetal, and we did it with red cameras, huge crew, and it's, as Miguel said, it's a place where the crew is so talented and is so fast, and everybody's working so hard, and because they love the project, because they're passionate about the film. um, I think it's gonna be a very good year. It's coming a lot of and I hope everybody can come here to do movies from everywhere, because it's even very easy to uh, the permissions. Like the permissions to do movies, it's easy right now if it doesn't have to do anything with the government, it's very easy. But I think we're gonna be a good place to do movies again.
Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to catch the second part of our conversation.